Have you ever just stood still, watching time slip through your fingers with no way to hold it back? Have you ever felt like life is passing you by too fast, as if you're merely surviving, not truly living? We chase goals, expectations, and even things that haven't happened yet. But have you ever stopped, simply to listen, to a single breath of your own? If you've ever felt lost between the weight of the past and the fear of the future, then perhaps now is the moment you're being invited back to something deeper, to the power of now. The book we're about to explore together is titled, The Power of Now, A Guide to Spiritual Enlightenment, a work that has transformed the lives of millions, reshaping how we see life, ourselves, and the meaning of true presence. Its author, Eckhart Tolle, is not a traditional philosopher with academic degrees or scholarly titles. And yet, he has become one of the most respected spiritual teachers of our time, simply by living what he teaches. Before his awakening, Tolle lived in the shadows of depression, anxiety, and deep despair. But one night, in a moment of utter hopelessness, something shifted. He experienced a profound inner transformation when he realized, I cannot live with myself any longer. But if I am not the self I can't live with, who am I? That moment changed everything. And from it, this book was born, not just as words, but as a living testament to awakening. Since its publication, The Power of Now has become a global phenomenon, translated into over 30 languages, with millions of copies sold worldwide. It is frequently listed among the most influential spiritual books of all time. Oprah Winfrey once said, "Reading The Power of Now was one of the most transformative spiritual experiences of my life." This isn't a book you simply read to understand. It's a book you feel, in the silence between your thoughts, in the stillness behind each word, in your presence. If you're looking for something to heal, or just a quiet moment to reconnect with yourself, I believe this journey is meant for you. Don't forget to subscribe, so you won't miss future readings that nourish the soul. And now, let go of the noise, set aside the thoughts. Because we're about to step into a space where time fades away, and only now remains, along with you. I think, therefore I am. The famous quote by René Descartes has long been a pillar of Western philosophy. But Eckhart Tolle gently whispers something different. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. Throughout our lives, we've been taught to believe that our thoughts define who we are. We identify so deeply with the mind that we say things like, I feel anxious, so I must be a nervous person. I think sad thoughts, so maybe I'm just weak. I have many ideas, this must be who I am. But Tolle asks a powerful question. If you can observe your thoughts, then who is the one observing? Tolle invites us to do something incredibly simple, yet rare. Stop. Be still. And watch the stream of thoughts passing through your mind. No judgment. No interference. Just witnessing, like an observer sitting outside the storm. And when you suddenly realize, these are just thoughts, but they are not me, that moment becomes your first glimpse of awakening. You've just stepped outside the invisible prison of the mind, a prison most people live inside without even realizing it. Tolle makes it clear. The mind is a superb instrument if used rightly. Misused, however, it becomes very destructive. Imagine having a powerful car, but instead of driving it, you're being dragged behind it. That's what happens when the mind controls you. It pulls you into spirals of worry, regret, fantasies, and mental noise. Worse yet, the mind never stops talking. It's a constant internal monologue, and most of us are unknowingly addicted to that noise. Tolle gently guides us back to the space between two thoughts, a seemingly insignificant pause, yet it contains the essence of real being. It is in those silent gaps, when no thoughts are arising, that you begin to sense something deeper than words. Presence. Stillness. Your true self. Not your identity, not your personal story. Just pure awareness, and that, he says, is who you truly are. One of the most liberating truths from this chapter is when Tolle says, "Don't believe everything your mind tells you. It doesn't speak for your true self. It only echoes your past and your fear." The mind loves telling stories about what went wrong, what might go wrong, and why you're not good enough. It invents endless dramas and traps you in false narratives. But you don't have to fight it. You simply have to see it for what it is, and in that act of seeing, you've already reclaimed your freedom. This chapter is not just theory. Tolle invites you to practice. When you feel overwhelmed by thoughts or emotions, pause and take a conscious breath. Then, watch the thought as if it's just a cloud passing in the sky. Gently ask yourself, is this really true? Or is this just a story my mind is telling? Do this daily, even for just a few minutes, and you'll begin to feel a quiet space opening up within you. You are not your thoughts. You are not your fears, your past, or your failures. You are the presence that observes it all, quietly, deeply, eternally. And this is the very first step toward the power of now. Only when the mind no longer controls you, do you truly begin to live. All suffering is caused by resistance to what is. Eckhart Tolle. We often believe that our suffering comes from external circumstances, work, money, relationships, painful childhood memories, or a broken world. But Eckhart Tolle flips that idea completely. He tells us, suffering doesn't come from the situation. It comes from your resistance to the situation. In other words, suffering doesn't exist in the present moment itself. It exists in your resistance to it. The human mind rarely lives in the now. It dwells in the past, filled with regrets and pain, or it escapes to the future, filled with fear and uncertainty. When something happens, no matter how big or small, the mind immediately reacts. Why me? This isn't fair. It shouldn't have happened like this. And it's this inner resistance, this mental noise, that creates a second layer of pain, often worse than the event itself. Tolle simplifies it with a powerful formula. Suffering equals the event plus your resistance to the event. Another person might go through the same situation as you, but they don't resist. They accept, and so they don't suffer. But if you fight, resist, complain, you feed the pain. You suffer not because of what is happening, but because you say no to what is. Some people hear the word acceptance and immediately think, doesn't that mean I'm giving up? That I'm being weak? But Tolle is clear. Acceptance doesn't mean you can't take action. It just means you stop mentally torturing yourself while you do it. You can still change your job, fix a relationship, or walk away from a toxic situation. But you do it from clarity and peace, not from anger or bitterness. That is true strength. Tolle explains that each of us carries an internal pain body, a kind of emotional residue built up from unhealed wounds. Every time you resist the present, you feed that pain body, making it stronger. And in turn, it makes you more reactive, more volatile, more trapped. You cannot heal the past by fighting with the present. Eckhart Tolle. Imagine this: each moment in life is like a visitor knocking on your door. You have two choices. You can slam the door shut, scream, and curse the visitor, the way your mind often does. Or you can open the door, let the moment in, and listen with presence. Whether the moment brings joy or sadness. That is true acceptance, not because you're weak, but because you are wise enough to choose peace over resistance. Tolle offers a very gentle practice. Whenever you feel upset, stressed, or frustrated, pause, take a deep breath, and ask, what am I resisting in this moment? 2. Close your eyes, take another slow breath, and silently repeat, I allow this moment to be. I choose peace over resistance. You are not losing control, you are reclaiming your inner freedom. Suffering is not your enemy. It's a signal, a whisper telling you that you're resisting life. And the moment you stop fighting, the moment you say yes to the now, you will feel a strange and beautiful kind of liberation. Not from the world, but from within yourself. Whenever you accept this moment completely, no matter what form it takes, you are no longer in conflict. You are at peace. The power of now. We live in a world where time is worshipped like a god. We're constantly looking to the future with hope or anxiety, or clinging to the past with regret and pain. But Eckhart Tolle reveals a startling truth, one that wakes us up from this trance. Time isn't real in the way you think it is. There is only one thing that truly exists, the present moment. To Tolle, the concept of psychological time is the root of most human suffering. This isn't the kind of time we use for scheduling or planning. No, psychological time is created by the mind itself, through its endless attachment to the past and its obsession with the future. Whenever your mind says, I'll be happy when, or it shouldn't have happened that way, you are caught in the trap of psychological time, and you've lost the present. As Tolle writes, the past is memory. The future is imagination. Both only exist in your mind. The only thing that is real is this moment, right now. This truth can be hard to accept. Society has taught us that success lies somewhere in the future. We're told to strive, to improve, to achieve something before we can feel whole. But this turns our entire life into a race with no finish line, a pursuit of a horizon we can never reach. We keep running, but happiness always stays just out of reach. Tolle reminds us, you don't have to wait. You don't have to be perfect. You don't need more money. You don't need anyone's approval. You just need to stop and become present. In this very moment, you are already enough. When you realize this, a deep stillness begins to rise within you. You'll notice that most of your stress, pain, and pressure doesn't come from what's happening now, but from the stories your mind is telling you about a past that's already gone or a future that hasn't arrived. And the moment you step out of psychological time, the mind becomes quiet. In that silence, something deeper appears, life itself. Now, Tolle doesn't deny the practical use of clock time. We still need to plan, to set goals, to show up for work. But he offers a gentle warning. Use time. Don't let time use you. That means, know the difference between practical planning and being trapped in an anxious daydream. Real freedom doesn't come from changing your circumstances. It comes from stepping out of the prison of psychological time. When you are no longer driven by old memories or imagined futures, you arrive in the one place where life actually happens, now. No more postponing. No more resisting. No more waiting to be alive. You simply live. And in that simplicity, you are free. Life is now. There has never been a time when your life was not now. Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. The greatest power a human being can possess is not knowledge, status, or wealth, but the ability to live fully in the present moment. Eckhart Tolle calls this the power of now, a quiet force with the ability to heal, liberate, and transform our entire perception of life. But to access this power, we must confront a familiar yet cunning enemy, the mind. The mind doesn't live in the present. It dwells in memories and expectations, in anxiety and regret. It builds an identity, a me that constantly needs protection, validation, and control. And when we are submerged in the never-ending voice of the mind, we lose touch with what is real, because life only happens here and now. Tolle writes, "You are not your mind. You are the awareness behind it." This awareness, the ability to observe your thoughts without judgment or identification, is the first step toward entering the now. The moment you can take a step back and witness the voice in your head without being pulled into its drama, something inside you begins to wake up. When you realize you are not the voice in your head, you begin to awaken, Tolle says. Accessing the now isn't something you need to do, it's a state you allow yourself to enter. It doesn't require effort or struggle. It only requires surrender, surrendering the resistance to what is, surrendering the need to control everything. And when you do, you'll discover something extraordinary. Even if your external situation hasn't changed, you have. In that very moment, a deep stillness arises, a peace that is untouched by circumstances. Tolle calls this state presence, and presence is the doorway to everything you've ever truly longed for: peace, freedom, love, wisdom. The present moment is all you ever have. Make the now the primary focus of your life, he urges. It's astonishing to realize that most of the problems we think are unbearable either dissolve or become surprisingly manageable when we become fully present. Because in presence, you no longer see through the filters of past wounds, future fears, or ego-driven expectations. You meet life directly, and from that directness, a new kind of clarity emerges. Actions are no longer reactions rooted in fear, but responses flowing from inner stillness. You don't need the past to define you, and you don't need the future to find salvation. Salvation is here, now. This isn't just a philosophy, it's a practice. When you eat, eat mindfully. When you walk, feel each step. When someone speaks, listen deeply, without preparing your reply in your head. Each simple act becomes a doorway to now. In the now, all your problems dissolve. Nothing survives in the light of presence except what is real. The world won't change overnight. Challenges will still come. People will still act out their unconscious patterns. But when you are rooted in the now, you are no longer tossed around by every situation. You become a spacious awareness in which everything happens, without resistance, without judgment. In this calm, you are no longer a victim of circumstance. You become a conscious co-creator with life. You act from clarity, not fear. You choose presence over panic. Presence is the key to freedom. So you can't be free in the future. You can only be free now. These are not just poetic words, they are a call to return. To return to yourself, not the ego, not the image, but your deep, eternal essence. That essence can only be touched through one doorway, the now. Not later. Not someday. Now. If there is one force that leads humans most astray and keeps them trapped in suffering, it is the ego, an invisible yet powerful structure in the mind that builds the illusion of me, of separation, and of lack. Eckhart Tolle describes the ego as a mental construct that constantly craves validation and is never satisfied. It makes us believe, I am what I have. I am what others think of me. I am what I've done in the past. But all of these identities are temporary. And because the ego is built on impermanence, it is constantly afraid of collapse. It fights, compares, defends, and clings. This is the root of suffering. The ego lives by reaction. When someone offends you, it instantly feels attacked. When others succeed, it feels inferior and jealous. When ignored, it falls into despair. But what you must realize is, you are not this ego. You are not the voice in your head that endlessly comments, judges, explains, and protects the image of me in your mind and in others. You are the still space behind it, the awareness watching it unfold. Tolle writes, whenever you observe the ego in yourself, you are beginning to awaken. The key is not to destroy the ego, that's not possible, but to observe it with awareness, without identifying. The moment you say, this is the ego reacting, it loses its grip. That simple noticing is the beginning of liberation. And in that space of awareness, you begin to touch true freedom. Freedom is not doing whatever you want. It's not being praised or getting your way. True freedom is not being dragged by the unconscious forces inside you that you've never questioned. It's the ability to pause, to not react, to choose presence instead of patterns. Tolle writes, every time you do not react from the ego, you are healing yourself and the collective human consciousness. This path isn't easy because the ego disguises itself cleverly. It may even hide behind morality, knowledge, or spiritual superiority. But don't be fooled. The moment you feel the urge to prove, to win, to be better than, the ego is already in control. The only way out of this unconscious loop is through deep presence and observation. Observe the pain when it rises, without running. Observe the jealousy, the fear, the shame, without judging. In the light of awareness, these emotions begin to melt. You don't have to overcome them because there is no you left to suffer. The ego fades, and all that remains is a vast, quiet stillness within you. Tolle says, pain needs you to survive. When you stop identifying with it, it can no longer exist. This is the moment you realize, suffering doesn't come from what's happening, it comes from how the ego reacts to what's happening. And when you become conscious, you are no longer a victim of your circumstances. You stop fighting life because you see that even the challenges, even the difficult people, are all invitations to wake up. You don't have to forgive from the mind, you simply understand and let go. As Tolle says, you don't have to defeat the ego. You just have to stop feeding it. And that is the beginning of real freedom. Freedom from yourself, from the roles, the fear of judgment, the need to be loved or to win. Freedom is when you return to yourself, not the self built on stories, but the quiet truth of your being. Nothing to prove. No one to impress. Nowhere to go. Just the wide, open silence of presence, where you finally realize you were never lacking anything. You just forgot who you were. Perhaps nowhere does the ego and unconsciousness reveal itself more clearly than in human relationships. It is through love, family, friendship, even conflict, that we see ourselves most vulnerably, full of expectations, hurts, demands, and a deep fear of abandonment. Eckhart Tolle writes, "If you feel hurt, it is not because of what someone did to you. It is the ego in you that feels threatened." This sentence reflects a sobering truth often forgotten, that much of the pain in relationships does not come from the other person, but from how our minds react, from the stories we weave and believe. When we are fully present in a relationship, something extraordinary happens. We no longer love from lack or fear, but from wholeness. Love ceases to be ownership, control, or a need to be reciprocated. It becomes a state of being. True love has no need of anything from another. It simply is. It arises when you no longer need love to feel complete, Tolle reminds us. When both people can be present, seeing each other without judgment, listening without preparing a response, accepting both the wounds and beauty in one another, then love becomes real. It's not loud or fiery, but deep, steady, and nurturing like the earth beneath our feet. But presence isn't just reserved for romantic or close relationships. It is the way we walk through the world, from how we look at the waiter, the patience we hold while standing in line, to the tenderness with which we water a plant or care for a pet. Every small action done in presence is an expression of living love, Tolle writes. The world is starving for real human presence, not just our bodies, but our souls. When you speak to someone but your mind is elsewhere, they feel your absence. But when you listen with your full attention, with your whole being, even silence becomes a gift. You are offering the most sacred thing you possess, your presence. We don't need to go to monasteries or retreat into forests to find enlightenment. It begins right here, in this life, in every moment you choose awareness over reaction. When someone is angry, you can pause. Instead of defending yourself, you choose to listen. When your child makes a mistake, rather than scolding, you can be still and see the fear beneath their behavior. Every relationship is a mirror, offering you the chance to see yourself more clearly, Tolle teaches. No one comes into your life by accident. Each person, each interaction carries a hidden message, an opportunity for you to choose, unconsciousness or awakening, reaction or presence. And slowly, you discover something profound. The world does not have to change for you to feel peace. Your presence changes everything. You begin to see beauty where you once saw annoyance. You find stillness in the middle of crowds. You feel the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the rustle of leaves, even the weight of sadness, and you no longer need to escape it. Presence turns every moment sacred. Because life, ultimately, can only be lived in this moment, right now. Pain, in the eyes of the world, is something to avoid. We learn from a young age how to escape it, through forced laughter, distractions, achievement, relationships, and even spiritual pursuits. But Eckhart Tolle offers a radical truth, one that shakes us at our core. Suffering is your teacher. Every pain carries the seed of awakening. Pain is not your enemy. It's a door. A signal that something within you, or the way you see the world, is calling for change. Sadness, fear, anger, emptiness, these are not mistakes. They are inner messages whispering, "Stop. Look within." Yet instead of listening, we resist. We suppress, avoid, deny. And that resistance, not the pain itself, is what prolongs our suffering. All suffering is resistance to the present moment, Tolle emphasizes. If you can stay present with your pain, observe it without labeling, without judgment, without running away, you begin to do something miraculous. You transform it. In presence, you are no longer a victim of your circumstances or emotions. You become the witness. And in that moment, even if just a few seconds of stillness in the middle of chaos, you are free. That's when you touch something deeper, the inner space where pain cannot reach. Tolle calls this the inner stillness. It is not numbness. It is peace that asks for nothing. You don't need to change your circumstances to find peace. You only need to stop resisting this moment. The deepest wounds often leave cracks in the soul, but through those cracks, the light can enter. Some people emerge from crisis not broken, but more awake. Not because they are strong, but because they have surrendered. They stopped asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and began asking, "What is this trying to show me?" And in that surrender, they found something no outer condition could ever give: freedom from the ego. Tolle never promises that being present will eliminate all pain. He simply says, pain will no longer control you. You won't be swept away by it. You'll walk through it with awareness, with grace, with light. And when you do, you don't just heal yourself, you become a healing presence to others. Your presence is the greatest gift you can offer the world. It radiates beyond words, healing without needing to fix, he writes. In the end, suffering is no longer a dark abyss. It becomes a sacred fire, a place where you are burned, not to be destroyed, but to have your false self incinerated. And from those ashes, you will rise, not as someone new, but as someone true, no longer afraid of the past, no longer anxious about the future, fully alive in the now. No one finishes the power of now and sees life in the same way again. This book doesn't urge you to change the world. It gently reminds you, you are the world, and your awareness can shift everything. But awakening isn't an achievement. It's not a mystical state you reach only in mountain retreats or deep silence. It's in the ordinary moments, when you pause, take a breath, and remember, you are alive. Awareness is doing the dishes, not to get them done, but to feel the water, the warmth, the movement. It's listening to someone speak, not to reply, but to truly hear them, as if your presence alone is the gift they needed. It's noticing when anger rises, and instead of becoming it, you gently say, "Ah, I'm feeling anger," and suddenly, you are no longer the emotion. You are the witness. Living in awareness doesn't mean retreating from the world. It means returning to it, fully present, with an open heart. Not to control, but to let go. Not to avoid sadness, but to embrace it as part of your wholeness. When you accept the present moment as it is, every moment becomes miraculous, writes Eckhart Tolle. And that miracle isn't found out there. It's in the quiet light behind your eyes, in the calm that others feel just by standing near you. Awareness is not a destination, it's a journey without end. Some days, you'll forget. You'll get lost in worry, in memory, in striving. That too is part of it. Every time you return to the now, you return to yourself. There is no failure. Only soft reminders, pause. Be here. Whatever you're doing, walking, eating, working, parenting, or simply breathing, you can return to the present. And that moment, no matter how small, is a miracle. Eckhart Tolle doesn't hand us a secret formula. He simply points to something so subtle we often miss it. Life is happening now. And if we are quiet enough, still enough, present enough, we can touch the infinite, even in the noise of everyday life. So if you've ever asked, how do I live in awareness each day? Maybe the answer is simply, be here. Fully. Not perfectly. Just truly. And so, we've walked together through these pages, through the deeper layers of the present moment, and of ourselves. Maybe you're sitting quietly in your room, or listening in the midst of a busy crowd, but right now, in this moment, you are here. No past left to regret. No future left to fear. There is only one thing that has always been waiting for you, this very moment. If this book leaves anything in your heart, let it be a gentle reminder. You don't have to keep running. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to outshine anyone. You don't need to search for anything more out there. Everything you need, peace, freedom, light, has always been here, right where you are breathing. So live with an open heart. Forget, then remember. Get lost, then return. Because awakening is not a destination, it's simply how you learn to love life more fully each day. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening with your whole heart. And if someday you find yourself drifting again, uncertain and untethered, remember this. All you need to do is pause and come back to the now. There, you will always find yourself.